Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm attorney Elle Brudner. I am live here today with Inside Immigration, which is our live weekly show about everything immigration. So I come here once a week and talk about everything immigration. We are currently live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and YouTube, and happy to answer your immigration questions today. So if you're new here, great. I'm super happy that you're here. Feel free to um, like our channel, subscribe, and that way you can get more updates about these kinds of events, and also see a lot of our content that we have on all channels about immigration topics. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about VAWA, VAWA self-petition green cards. And the reason I picked this is because we've had a lot of people ask about this topic recently. So I said, I'm going to talk a little bit about it, and then I'm going to answer your questions. So if you're here and you have a question about immigration, maybe you're thinking about filing a case, or you already have a case pending and you have a question about it, feel free to write the questions in the comments, and I promise to get to them as I go. Everything we talk about today is general information. It's not one-on-one legal advice, but if you want to get legal advice on your case, I recommend to have a consultation, and you can reach out to us. Our information is here below. We were happy to discuss your case one-on-one, really dive into your specific situation and give you advice about your case. But today, this is just general information. Okay, if you're watching the replay of this, you can still write your questions. We do see them, and we will answer them as we see them. Okay, hello, and welcome for everyone that's joining. We are answering immigration questions today, so feel free to write them as you go. And today is Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day to everybody. I hope everyone is finding some time to spend time with your loved ones, and spending some time loving yourself as well. We have a lot to be grateful for, and it's important to remember that. So let's jump in to talk about some important topics. And today I want to talk about VAWA, but before we talk about VAWA, I want to remind everyone that we are having some significant fee increases with immigration taking place April 1st. So the most affected cases for this fee increase would be the marriage-based cases. If you're filing a green card request here in the United States based on marriage or based on a familial relationship, then your fees are going to almost double. If you also want to file for the usual things like the work permit, travel document that we usually file for, they are going to go up significantly. So if you are thinking of starting an immigration case, reach out and have a consultation about your specific case, because you want to know if you are subject to the fee increase or not. And if you are subject to that fee increase, you have to get started with your case. Don't wait. Don't pay extra fees to the government. There's no reason to do that. Okay. The good thing about the fee, the only good thing about the fee changes is that there are certain case types that actually there's going to be a reduction in filing fees. So actually the government did a good thing. And for certain cases, for example, VAWA, which I'm going to talk about later in a few minutes, the filing fee for any applications associated with VAWA has been waived. Okay, so for VAWA cases, for U visa cases, for T visa cases, for any of the humanitarian relief options, the filing fee has actually been waived. But the cases, the marriage cases, the parent cases, the child cases, those are going to go up. Okay. So it's a really good idea if you're on the fence, you don't know if to start your case, to have a consultation with an immigration attorney and get the layout about the fees. Okay. Perfect. If you're joining us now, welcome. So glad to see you here. And you have an immigration question, feel free to write them in the comments, and I promise to try to get to them as we go. Okay. So, what is VAWA, and what does it mean, and who can qualify for this? Okay. So, VAWA it stands for Violence Against Women's Act. Okay. VAWA, Violence Against Women's Act. And the name, it's misleading because it has the word woman in there, but it actually applies to men just the same. And we represent men and women with this kind of case type, and it's available. Okay. And this is a special way to get your green card without having anyone petition you or anyone sponsoring you. That's why it's called a self-petition, because you are filing this green card for yourself by yourself. Okay. And who can qualify for this? So it's a very specific kind of green card, and it's it's available for people that are in a relationship with an immediate relative. So it's a US citizen spouse or a lawful permanent resident spouse, or that they have a child that's over 21, an adult child that's a US citizen. Okay. And it's not enough just to have that relationship. You have to show that you have been in a bad position with this relationship, that you have suffered in this relationship, that you have suffered either extreme cruelty or abuse. Okay. Now, what does it mean, extreme cruelty or abuse? Okay, we're talking about mistreatment, humiliation, threats, disrespectful behavior, any emotional pressure or control. It really goes on and on about what constitutes extreme cruelty or abuse. Okay, the most important thing to know is that we are talking about any type of abuse, and there's no requirement for any physical abuse. So people often confuse the VAWA green card with the U visa. Okay, the U visa is a visa or a way to get status in the United States based on being a victim of a crime, based of reporting a crime to the police. Right, being a victim of crime and assisting law enforcement by reporting it. And it's true that sometimes people that qualify for VAWA might also qualify for a U visa, because maybe because of their relationship, maybe they've suffered for domestic violence and maybe they've reported their spouse or their child. But it's not necessarily, you don't need to have a police report. It's not required for VAWA. And a lot of attorneys still think that too. You know, there's a lot of it's a misconception that are out there. But I feel like now at this point, most of attorneys know. You know, most of attorneys that file these cases know that not necessarily required police report. Okay, no physical abuse is required. It's sufficient to show that you've been subject to emotional, psychological abuse, financial abuse, and also extreme cruelty, which is just means that you have been subject to behavior that is very harsh and negative. Okay. Now, I want to tell you guys about the benefits of VAWA, and I want to give you an example of a case, okay, or a situation that comes up a lot and could be sufficient for VAWA, is sufficient for VAWA in many cases. Okay, so what are the benefits of VAWA? The benefit of the VAWA is, first thing, you don't need a petitioner, you don't need a sponsor, you don't need anyone to help you by filing any kind of financial documents or coming with you to any interview or anything like that. You can get your green card in the United States. You do not have to leave. Now, this is a huge, huge, huge benefit. Many people have to leave the United States in order to get their green card, but not if you qualify for VAWA, right? The law says that you can only apply for the green card in the United States if you have been legally admitted and inspected. So you entered legally the country, okay? And there are some exceptions, and VAWA is an exception to that. So even if you entered unlawfully, you can still qualify for VAWA. Okay? That's a huge advantage. You can do the whole process here in the United States. You can ask for a work permit while you're waiting, okay, for your case. And also VAWA is a pretty generous relief, and it does waive and forgive a lot of things. Okay, not everything, but it does forgive a lot of things. Okay, so those are the benefits of VAWA. Now, what are you required to show with VAWA? So with VAWA, you are required to show that you have that qualifying relationship, right? That you have a U.S. citizen resident spouse or ex-spouse. So you can even file VAWA if you've suffered in a relationship with your ex, as long as it's not been more than 2 years since the divorce. Okay. So you have to prove that you have that qualifying relationship. So for example, if you're filing based on a relationship with your ex, you have to show that you have a divorce decree. Let's say you're already divorced, but it's not been 2 years since the day of your divorce. Okay. And then you have to show that you've lived with your family member for any period of time. So even a month, okay? It doesn't matter. You have to show that you've lived for a certain amount of time and that you have suffered from this relationship, from extreme cruelty or abuse. Again, no need for physical abuse. And finally, you have to show that you are a person of good moral character so that you are a person deserving of this benefit. Okay. So those are the big benefits of VAWA and the requirements for VAWA. Okay. Now let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story about a case where this can come up. So a client came to me and she was really nervous because she has an interview scheduled for her green card, marriage-based green card here in the United States. And her husband does not want to go with her to her green card. And the reason that her husband does not want to go with her is because he just doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to help her. She thinks that he really doesn't want to, he doesn't want her to get her green card. She thinks, that he's doing this on purpose to make her process harder, to make it take longer. And, he doesn't care even if she's denied because, as long as she doesn't have status, she's dependent on him. And he wants her to be with him. And they had a big fight, an argument, and she's nervous because he said that he's not coming and her interview is coming up. And she asked me what to do. Okay. So for marriage-based green cards, you are required to go with your spouse. Your spouse is your sponsor, is your petitioner, and you have to bring your spouse with you. If you don't go with your spouse, they're going to deny your case. Immigration is going to deny your case. But there is an option to switch the case from a regular case to a VAWA case. And I talked to this client and we talked in length about her relationship. And she told me that she's been going through a very, very hard time in this relationship. And she has been suffering from emotional and psychological and mental abuse, that sometimes she feels like she's going crazy because of the way her husband is treating her. And this whole not coming to the green card interview with her has caused her significant stress and anxiety, and she's not sleeping and she's not eating and she's worried and she's scared. She doesn't know if a police officer can stop her on the street any day and ask her for her status, and she's really, really nervous. So after determining that she does qualify for VAWA because she meets the core requirements, I advised her to go to her interview and ask to hold the case in abeyance, basically asking to switch from the regular case to VAWA case. And we helped her do that. And she was able to proceed now by herself without her husband's help. And it really empowered her to gain her control back in her life and her power and her self-esteem. And she wasn't that scared anymore because she had a case pending with immigration now, right? So her case is still pending, but we have a lot of examples similar to that, how people switch in the middle of the case as well. It's not the end of the world. Even if you started one type of case, you started the regular marriage case, it's okay. You could switch. We've done it before. We've helped many people in this way. Okay, perfect. If you have questions about anything we just discussed or anything else, please feel free to write them in the comments. Also, if you're watching the replay of this, okay, on YouTube or on Facebook or on LinkedIn, wherever you are. Cool. So I have some questions coming in. I will answer a few questions. And if you have any, please feel free to write them here in the comments. So I have a question here about VAWA. Do I have to be living with my husband to apply for VAWA? Very common question. There's no requirements to be currently living with your spouse to qualify for a VAWA self-petition, a VAWA green card. You only would have to show that you have lived with your husband at some point and you've suffered from that relationship with your husband. So no, you do not have to be currently living with your husband to qualify for VAWA, but you have to show that you have lived with him at some point. That is one of the requirements for VAWA. Okay. Perfect. Jumping into the next question. I am petitioning for my mom. Can I include my minor siblings in the petition? Okay, so family-based immigration, switching topics. I don't know here if you're a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, but let's say you're a U.S. citizen, then you can petition for your mom. Only U.S. citizens can petition for parents. You cannot include your minor siblings in the petition. Siblings would be a separate petition. So you would either need to apply for your mom and for your siblings separately. Now, applying for a sibling can take a lot of years, right? Based on where you are, which country you're from, it can take a long time. So for siblings, it can take 15, 20 years. So my recommendation most likely in your case would be to petition for your mom and have your mom petition your minor siblings. It will be much quicker. Okay. But if this is your situation, definitely schedule a consultation so that you can have the strategy planned out and mapped out to you. You know, each way, how long it would take, what would you need, how much would it cost, and all the information. Next question. Perfect, everyone. And just remember these questions, these are general, this is general information. If this is your question, this is not personalized advice, it's just general information. But if you do want to have personal, a one-on-one call, we're happy to have a consultation with you. And here's our information going on the screen right now. Okay, let me jump to another question. Okay. What documents do I need for a marriage-based green card? Okay, so that's a loaded question. There's a lot of documents that's needed for a marriage-based green card, and it really depends where you are located, if you're doing the process here in the United States, or if you're doing the process from your home country through consular processing. But generally speaking, when you're talking about a marriage-based case, you're going to have to provide different documentations. First, you're going to have to prove the relationship, and that is the core of this petition, of the I-130 petition. And it doesn't matter if you're doing it in the US or you're doing it abroad, you're going to need to show proof of a bona fide and real relationship. Okay. In addition to proof of bona fide relationships, you'll have to show later down the road, the petitioner will have to show proof of financial ability to sponsor the beneficiary or the applicant, and you would have to show also proof that the applicant is admissible to the U.S. So if there's any criminal record or anything like that, you would have to show that. So those are just kind of some examples of the documents that you need, but it is very document heavy, and good idea to consult with a lawyer before you file your case so you make sure that you file the best way. Okay. Perfect. I am going to jump to one more question today. Let's see. Which is better, fiance visa or immigrant visa? So we get this question a lot because if someone is in a relationship, with a foreign born national. So let's say I'm a U.S. citizen and I want to sponsor my fiance, my boyfriend, or my husband. I really would. It's really hard to know which way to go. There's a lot of information on Google. If you look it up, there's a lot of information, and it's confusing and can be a little bit overwhelming. That's why we created our guide to immigration for couples. Basically, it lays out the different options for immigration, or receiving permanent status here in the United States based on a relationship with a U.S. citizen. So if you are interested in the guide, shoot me a message or write a comment that you're interested in our guide, our couples guide. I'll make sure to send it to you. And in general, what's better, fiance visa or immigrant visa? The difference is fiance, you can apply without getting married, usually right away. People already qualify for that. And then an immigrant visa based on marriage is that you have to first get married. So it's a very personal decision that has to go with your own consideration. Right now, fiance visa, immigrant visa, I don't see much of a difference with processing times. Fiance visa might be a little quicker to get here to the United States, but not quicker to get the green card. Immigrant visa is probably quicker to get the green card and less expensive as well, because fiance visa, you are going through multiple steps. And when someone comes to the United States, they only come as a fiance for 90 days and they have to then apply for the whole green card. Whereas if you're going the immigrant visa route, when you come to the US, you come on an immigrant visa for residency and you do not need to apply again for anything. So really, there's a lot that goes into the discussion, fiance visa, immigrant visa. Comment here below if you want our guide. I'll send it to you. It breaks down all the options, pros and cons. And if you want to talk specifically with me about it, feel free to reach out and we'd love to have a consultation with you. Okay. Wonderful. So I am going to wrap up today with another final encouragement for everyone thinking about filing their case based on marriage for adjustment of status. This is the time. Do not wait for filing fees to go up, because they are going to go up and you don't want to pay the government more than you need to. Okay. So for everyone, have a wonderful evening. It was so nice to be here. If you're watching the recording of this, you can still jot down your questions. I'll try to get to them as I see them. Happy Valentine's Day, and I will see you guys next week.